Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
And good evening to you. Well, we start with some breaking news tonight. A person has died following a crash at Newtown. We cross to our reporter Meg Sides, who was at the scene. Good evening, Meg. What can you tell us?
Kim, police were called here to the scene at around 4:30 this afternoon. Emergency services believe the crash occurred as a result of a medical incident. It happened on Park Street near Risdon Road. Police have spoken just now, but it's expected the road will remain blocked for around 2 hours as investigations continue.
Early indications suggest the driver of that vehicle is suffering from a medical condition which has caused him to lose consciousness. As a result of that, he has collided into the rear of a taxi before rebounding and colliding with the bridge, which is the overpass on Park Street.
Kim, for now, motorists are being urged to avoid the scene until it's cleared.
To other news now, and strict new safety and health protocols will be in force when our borders reopen to COVID-safe states in 2 weeks' time. Fresh flights are on the cards, while talks have taken off about a New Zealand travel bubble.
In a fortnight, the fortress will finally come down.
Our plan continues to be that on the 26th of October, we will open to the low-risk jurisdictions of South Australia, Western Australia, the Northern Territory, Queensland and the ACT.
While Victoria remains out of the question for now, a decision on New South Wales will be made in a week's time.
It's looking promising. There are low numbers of cases which are related to some complex clusters or small outbreaks, mostly in the southwest of Sydney, and we'll be keeping an eye on those cases.
The state government has launched its Safe Border strategy detailing how it intends to keep Tasmania COVID-free.
Anyone travelling to Tasmania from low-risk jurisdictions will be required to register their travel. There is a new app, the Tas-E Travel app. There will be health screening for all arrivals to our state, including temperature checks, and there'll be questions asked regarding whether or not they have any symptoms.
If they do, travellers will be asked to have a COVID test and isolate until results come in. Mandatory quarantine for those arriving from hotspots will remain.
We have sufficient levels of PPE and are well advanced in terms of the target level of stockpile, with equivalent to 6 months' supply available for our health service with surge capacity if needed.
But there are concerns around staffing levels and a surge workforce.
We know that that was a significant challenge with the outbreak at the Northwest Regional and Northwest Private Hospital, the availability of additional nursing and midwifery staff to be able to respond at short notice. There just isn't the fat in the system.
Police say controls around essential workers remain stringent.
I'm not aware of a single traveller who got an exemption. An essential worker who has actually tested positive for COVID. So has it achieved its objective? The answer to that is yes, a resounding yes. It's been very successful.
Travellers can transit through Melbourne Airport or Victoria to the Spirit of Tasmania terminal, only stopping for fuel, and more flights could be on the way, including New Zealand.
I would hope that we would be able to have an interim arrangement in terms of an international facility in place before January. My understanding is that the plans that have been put forward could be stood up in about 8 to 10 weeks, but that discussion's ongoing.
Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
A 31-year-old has been charged over the alleged murder of a Mornington man yesterday. Police say a 34-year-old man was found with a fatal stab wound to the neck in a unit complex car park on Carbine Street. It's alleged both parties were known to each other. The man is set to appear in an after-hours court session in Hobart this evening. A government minister under siege has narrowly survived a vote of no confidence. Housing and Human Resources Minister Roger Yench accused of misleading the Parliament.
During this worksite, the Deputy Premier spruiking the launch of the new Job Trainer Fund.
To support the training of trainees and apprentices, and it's fantastic that it kicks off live on Saturday.
These trainees are far more captive audience than his colleagues in Parliament, forced to defend his Minister Roger Yench as he stared down a vote of no confidence.
He is actually a man of action. Waiving of Tasmania's historic housing debt is an example of that. Is an example of that. 16 years it took you, look.
The Housing and Human Services Minister accused of misleading Parliament about proposed changes to tenancy laws.
There's barely a Tasmanian whose life is not touched in some way by Mr Yench's portfolio, by his portfolios, Madam Speaker.
The debate taking up almost the entire parliamentary day.
Any decision by government to change the law would need to be tabled in this place, and until it is tabled, no final decision has been made.
It 100% did make a decision before the pandemic, and it reversed that decision on the 24th of August, which means that for 5 months of a pandemic emergency, it was government policy.
The motion eventually defeated after independent Madeleine Ogilvie voted with the government.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it.
But despite his victory, Labor says the issue is far from over.
Sadly, this reflects on Mr Yench in a way that won't be resolved, I suspect, even by a debate in the Parliament today, because this will be a stench that hangs around him his entire career.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
It was a busy night for Tasmania's councils, with a fiery debate leading to a controversial apartment development being knocked back. Other major projects across Greater Hobart also on the agenda, with aldermen left unable to decide on building works for a new hotel.
This public site at Ralphs Bay set to remain as it is, with a divisive proposal for a 60-metre private jetty squashed by Clarence City Council last night.
The majority of aldermen believed that because the jetty was going to be fenced off and the shed locked, that the use of the jetty was not complementary to the adjacent public open space.
The council, however, unable to make a decision on another proposal, whether to grant an extension for a controversial $80 million hotel at Kangaroo Bay. The developer, Shambroad, says it remains committed.
Aldermen would appreciate further advice in terms of the legal implications, the costs, and how we might go about funding it if indeed we want to go down the path of buying it back.
Any development here was always going to be contentious and should have been more of a public amenity than a private development.
Meanwhile, in Hobart, a heated debate resulted in a $36 million apartment proposal on Macquarie Street refused.
It didn't tick the boxes as far as elected members go on heritage, on streetscape, on suitability and things like overshadowing.
A massively imposing building in that area. And as you walk up Macquarie Street, this building is just going to ruin it. So at the moment, it's just a lovely street to walk up, and they've got to maintain that.
Council saying goodbye to the project, as well as its general manager, stepping down in April after 12 years in the role.
It's right timing for the council. It gives them an opportunity to go through a selection process and recruit a new general manager to take them through what's going to be a difficult post-COVID period over the next 3 to 5 years.
Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
The Christmas Grinch has made an early appearance again. Now Tasmania's biggest Carols by Candlelight event has been cancelled. The Rotary Club of Tamar Sunrise says the family favourite show won't be viable to run this year due to COVID outdoor restrictions.
We'll still be selling some candles, asking for donations from members of the public and encouraging locals to celebrate the Carols Day with their families at their home or out in a park having a picnic. And we'll also be featuring lots of talent from Northern Tasmania on our Carols Facebook page in the lead up to Christmas.
The club says it plans to come back bigger and better next year. Well, there's a new batch of furry friends ready to lend a helping paw. Dogs and volunteers celebrating with Guide Dogs Tasmania for puppies passing their development program.
A graduation ceremony with a difference. Tasmania's future assistance dogs completing the first stage of their training.
We have a mixture of 3 graduating guide dogs, a dog-assisted therapy dog and some companion and support dogs, and a fantastic outcome for the entire team of volunteers, supporters and trainers to be able to get these dogs out, graduating and supporting Tasmanians that need them.
The connection between guide dog and handler, a special one.
It didn't take me long to realise that I just couldn't live without a guide dog beside me. He's added that extra dimension back into my life that I thought I wasn't going to have.
Having formed quite the bond while raising them, the program's volunteers watched on proudly.
It's really rewarding. I mean, today sort of cements that.
sometimes you don't think about the end result.
They are going to be with someone all the time, and that's what dogs love. No matter what, whether they're guide dogs or ordinary dogs, they just love being with someone.
Training programs across the world were affected by the pandemic, and these were no different.
We had some of our volunteers set up cafes in their backyard. We created scavenger hunts and obstacle courses and just lots of different things to challenge them and keep the dogs progressing at home.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, in what's already been a strange year for sport, Tasmania's Premier League hockey is about to deliver its most extraordinary grand final card in recent years. None of the teams in the men's or women's finals have won the title in the last 5 seasons, while the women's decider will be high on emotion for OHA. If the regular season's results were anything to go by, Northwest Grad should have expected to meet Derwent in the grand final. But off-target attempts in the prelim against University would prove pervasive for the defending champion. The students made Derwent pay, first with a Paul Ancher conversion, then a watertight goalkeeping effort from James Shepherd, who ensured University, after barely scraping into the finals, would go on to the decider.
Grads have only lost 1 game this year, then they've won straight through to the grand final, and they're going to be going in expecting to win, and it's their game to lose.
The result will be a drought breaker regardless of who wins. Eddie Ockenden led Grads to their last title in 2014, while Uni hasn't won since 2002. Grads will also be hoping to salute their outgoing coach, Stephen McMullen.
He's put so much into this team over the last couple of years. It'd be absolutely unbelievable to send him off on a high, and I think he really deserves it, and I know all the boys will be out there playing their heart out for him.
In the women's, Diamondbacks also knocked off the flag favourite in sensational style last week. A lucky bounce helped Madison Clark swing momentum, with the final ledger 2-1, setting up an encounter with OHA.
I don't think we have anything to lose coming from third and being the underdogs.
The game will be extremely emotional for OHA, which tragically lost team member Liv Sproul last year.
Huge deal for our team. We've had a pretty tough couple of years, especially with losing one of our players last year. So I think a lot of our players are really determined to do that and fight for that player we lost and prove that we can do it.
Both finals are on this Saturday at the Tasmanian Hockey Centre. Tasmania has suffered a cruel defeat in its opening Sheffield Shield clash against Queensland. After batting all day trying to salvage a draw, the Tigers were finally bowled out just as play was drawing to a close. Jordan Silk grinded out a half-century before being bowled on 56 after facing 201 balls. Jake Doran also played the long game, patiently wearing more than 150 deliveries before being dismissed for 36. The Tigers lost Nathan Ellis and Jackson Bird just after 5 o'clock, leaving 1 wicket in hand. Fielders surrounded the tailenders, and with Tasmania desperately trying to hang on, Riley Meredith became the last Tiger to fall, bowled by Mitch Swepson. Tasmania's next match is against South Australia from Monday.
Good evening. Temperatures range today from -2 on Mount Wellington to our top of 19 in Devonport. Hobart 14 degrees, 3 below the October average. Launceston 18 and Burnie 17. Lowhead, Friendly Beaches, Bushy Park and Strawn all 17. St Helens Grove and the Bass Strait Islands 15. There was low-level cumulus cloud over the ranges today and the Bass Strait. Elsewhere, conditions remain sunny over Tasmania. A surface trough brought the cloud to Victoria and over the Bight. Some middle-level cloud over inland Queensland and inland Western Australia. Tomorrow, the high crosses Tasmania. As a cold front approaches from the west, surface troughs remain over the mainland. Winds east-northeasterly increasing to 20 to 30 knots over the northwest early and later over the east. A decaying 4-metre southwesterly swell. We have a strong wind warning for waters between Wineglass Bay and South East Cape, and also from Sandy Cape to Stanley. A minor flood warning for the Macquarie and Jordan rivers, with all that runoff from the last few days. Becoming cloudy in Hobart, 19 degrees, 19 for Geefston, early frost for Bothwell, a top of 17 later. Launceston expecting a top of 17, becoming cloudy for Devonport and 15, 16 the high for Cressy. Burnie tomorrow, a partly cloudy 15, 18 the top for Strawn, Curry on King Island, a high of 16 degrees. And for the east tomorrow, 15 the top for St Helens, Swansea becoming cloudy and 17, 17 also for Orford. Showers extending throughout on Thursday, then clearing the north in the evening. Mainly fine on Friday, winds tending northeasterly during the day, and on Saturday a few showers developing later over the east, mainly fine over the west and south. Partly cloudy in Perth, a sunny 31 in Adelaide, a top of 24 in Melbourne, cloudy over Canberra and Sydney, as well as Brisbane, 27 for the Queensland capital. Fine conditions here at the moment. 12 degrees in Hobart, a bit warmer in Launceston, 15, the sun's still shining, partly cloudy in Devonport, and 13. This is the sort of stuff you like this time of night, Kim.
I do like it fine. Thank you very much, Murph. That's your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.